Hi, students. How are you doing? Welcome to Nayasim. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. So there is this news going around, and it's been confirmed that it's true. And his name is El Funky. He is Cuban, a rapper. So it happened that he's also one of the people that have been rapping for that rapped throughout Donald Trump's campaign and all that. I think he's also part of the people that sang. They will both, but Donald Trump. Now it looks like the song has changed to they will put you back to Cuban. So yeah, he is facing deportation and he got 30 days, but now it looks like he has 20 something days, right? And his residency permit was denied. And while I was making research, I found out also that he has rapped so many bad things about his country, and he is also being wanted in his country. So it means that his home is not okay for him to go, and he also cannot stay back in United States where he rapped all whatever he rapped and voted for who he voted for. Now I am going to say this: you voted for what is happening to you. And what you voted or what you rapped for is what is going on at this point in time. People were asking, what do you think? I don't think anything. I think he is receiving the fruit of his labor. There is something about Latinos. They are so good at doing the wrong thing. They don't even mind if it is going to also hurt people in their own community. They would do it. I don't know why they behave like this, but let's get into this video.
A pro-Trump Cuban rapper is about to be deported, and he's been told by the administration that he has less than 30 days to pack his bags. The rapper's name is El Funky, and I'll read what he posted on Instagram just recently. He wrote, "I have 30 days to leave the country or I will be deported. I ask all my Cuban brothers who know my anti-communist trajectory and the congressmen of this country that more than ever, I need your support today." This is a really crazy story, so buckle up and remember to add the Midas Touch podcast right now on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. As this article from Politico notes, El Funky fled Cuba to reside in Miami, and although he was previously championed by Cuban politicians Marco Rubio and Mario Diaz-Balart, the two have not spoken publicly on the rapper's behalf, but the possibility of deportation has not changed El Funky's stance on Trump, despite him not being able to legally vote. The rapper has previously stated, "If I could vote, I would have voted for Trump. He's the strongest president when it comes to Cuba." Earlier this month, U.S. immigration authorities denied El Funky's residency application under the 1966 Cuban Adjustment Act. And if he is indeed deported back to Cuba, he faces likely imprisonment there because his music helped fuel the largest anti-government protests in Cuba in decades. And despite that, let me remind you once again, he still supports Trump. Follow Midas Touch now for more news.
Friend, pick up the phone. So apparently there's a Cuban rapper called El Funky. No, for real. His name is El Funky. And he is a very big supporter of the Dollar Tree dictator. Literally. Is number one cocksucker. No, not number one, but he's top 50 for sure. He is going to be deported back to Cuba because they denied his visa. They meaning the people, the same people that he's dick riding for. The irony in all of this is that he still says, I still support this man and what he has going on. I'm just hoping that you guys go back, find my application, because there has to be some type of mishap, like misunderstanding. Like, go find my application and approve it, because yeah, I like y'all and I've been a supporter for so long. He has 30 days, well now 28 days to get his ass back to Cuba, and he can't really go there because his raps and his music has incited one of the greatest wars in Cuba. And so, yeah, if he goes back there, then yeah, things don't look good for him, because he's immediately going to be taken into custody, and now he's afraid. Yeah.
Happy Fun Day Sunday, TikTok. I need my Latin community of South Florida, particularly my Cubans and my Venezuelans, to come to the front of the class. Coming from my fancy garage, I have a question for you on this fine Sunday afternoon. And we are going to start with my Cuban people first. Are you happy with your vote? Would you turn around and vote for him again tomorrow? Is he keeping his promises? Do you still feel that your skin is whiter than mine, or you think that you are whiter than me? Whatever do you mean, mouth of the South? Skin color whiter than yours or whiter than you? Yeah, because that's how I have seen for the past 30 years the Cuban people act. Not all of them, but you know who the fuck you are. Where I have seen complete racism to Jamaicans, to Haitians, to Black Americans. And my melanin brothers and sisters from the islands and here, right here in the United States, tell me I'm fucking wrong. I've had to step in a couple of battles before TikTok and social media even was a fucking thing. So Cubans, how you feeling today? That concert you put on down in Miami singing, vote, vote, vote for Donald Trump. Oh, that's right, I forgot. You got deported. Why, you went and spread misinformation to every other Cuban person living in Miami and South Florida. But you got deported. And my Venezuelan people, the ones who voted for Donald Trump, how do you feel now? Especially if you're one of the 350,000 people who just got their status revoked. Oh, you didn't hear about that? The Supreme Court gave the green light for you guys to all go bye-bye. Just when the Latin community is supposed to stick together. And I know I look like a crazy fucking white lady. But that Latin DNA runs in my roots and my genes too. I just look like a crazy white lady. How you feeling now? Would you vote for him again tomorrow? Are you proud? Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. You can't tell me because you got deported. So, to all my Latin people, I would really suggest you wake the fuck up. And you see things right now for what the fuck it is. This is history repeating itself. I told you, education is key. Knowledge is power. Stop making the same mistakes again and again and again. Wake up before it's too late. For some of y'all, it already is. You enjoy the rest of your Sunday now. You hear?
Just imagine that you're someone that highly supports someone and they just backstab you. That's exactly what they're doing to this rapper, this Cuban rapper named El Funky. Now, I know El Funky, why would someone name themselves that? I don't know. But he is a really big supporter of the Cheeto Man, and he's Cuban, you know. So his visa got denied, and he only has like 28 days until he has to leave. And it doesn't look good for his rapping career because in Cuba, you know, what he's doing is not acceptable over there. So yeah, this goes to show that they don't care how much you support them. If they don't like you, if, you know, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter for them. They don't care how much you support them, okay?
From being deported out of the country, yet he still would have voted for Trump if he could have. Let's run down the story. And, you know, let's just start with the fact that a lot of Trump's Latino backers are having buyer's remorse. Trump, for some reason, thought that this realignment that happened this election, which isn't even as big as he thought, was permanent. He thought he could never lose these new voters that he picked up, which a lot of times were Latino voters, or a lot of times were young men voters. But no. People are paying attention, and when you start to deport people with no due process, people pick up on that. Quote, beyond betrayal. Those are the words of Adela Ferro, director of the Venezuelan American Caucus. She said that in February, after the Trump admin announced they would end temporary protected status, TPS, for almost 600,000 Venezuelans living in the U.S. And betrayed they should feel. Naturalized Venezuelans were crucial in Donald Trump's retaking of Miami-Dade County, prompting Florida Democrats to call it a day of reckoning. And here's the thing. Trump in his campaign, according to Adelis, the director of the Venezuelan community there, Trump and his admin promised them directly, eye to eye, that they would not end TPS for Venezuelan Americans, yet it still happened. In 2024, Trump made gains all over the U.S. with Hispanic voters, mostly Hispanic men. Puerto Ricans helped him secure Pennsylvania, and he even improved with Cubans, already overwhelmingly Republican. He didn't trick anyone. His stance on immigration was, and is, draconian. He stood by as his supporters demonized and humiliated Latinos, so it begs the question, why? Why vote for him in the first place, and then just now realize he's taking this scorched earth stance? But sometimes it do be like that. You know, this brings me on to El Funky. Yes, this is actually his name. The Cuban rapper's name is El Funky. Here's his account on Instagram. He posts a photo of him saying, SOS Cuba. And when I zoom out and you read, actually I need to translate this. It says, I have 30 days to leave the country or I will be deported. I ask all my Cuban brothers who know my anti-communist trajectory and the congressmen of this country that more than ever, I need your support today. Greetings and blessings. Oh, I'm sorry. How naive. How naive to think that you can just ask the congressman to save you. You're not white enough. And I say that like sort of sarcastically to be an asshole, but at the same time, the Republicans are only allowing refugees that are white from South Africa. That is racism in its purest, rawest form. So while yes, I was making an edgy joke 10 seconds ago, it's kind of just the reality. Republican congressmen don't care. They do not care. But let's read this article. By the way, if you made it this far in the video, I keep getting comments like, Adam, I've been watching since 200,000 subs and I never even subscribed. Fixing that now. So if you want to join the crew, help expose Trump, make sure you subscribe. Let's check this out. This reads, the predicament of the rapper known as El Funky. Honestly, you deserve it just for that name. Okay, sorry, done with the edgy jokes. El Funky reveals the deeply conflicted anti-Castro and pro-Trump politics of South Florida. It's actually a really interesting dynamic if you think about it. In 2021, like many Cubans and Cuban Americans this summer, Florida Senator Marco Rubio was jamming to Patria y Vida, the Grammy-winning protest anthem that became a rallying cry for dissidents in Cuba. Now that rapper is about to be deported. It's insane how that works, how you can make music about a regime that is sort of communist or a little bit dictatorial in its working. It's not a little bit, very dictatorial. And then you still defend a regime that basically does the same thing. Now, one of the central voices of Marco Rubio's favorite songs, by the way, Marco Rubio loves this dude's songs, and Marco Rubio like endorsed him, sort of was like, yo, this guy's cool. Now, one of the song's central voices, Cuban rapper, better known as El Funky, faces removal from the U.S. Earlier this month, U.S. immigration authorities denied Marquez's residence application under the 1966 Cuban Adjustment Act. So they're going back decades and decades to be an asshole to this guy. He has less than 30 days to leave the U.S. or face deportation and likely imprisonment in Cuba, since his music helped fuel the largest anti-government protests in Cuba for decades. Wow. So this guy helps fuel anti-government protests that make people's lives better, or at least give people hope in their day-to-day lives that the government will someday improve. And Trump and his admin are threatening to deport this guy, who Marco Rubio likes, back to Cuba, where he will immediately be very likely imprisoned and tortured. Despite the troubles of El Funky, Rubio, now the Secretary of State, has remained entirely silent. By the way, Rubio would have the ability to unilaterally fix this, but again, he doesn't care unless Trump asks, unless you're white from South Africa, or unless you have money, a shit ton of money. I guess not enough money. El Funky doesn't have enough. You gotta have Elon Musk money. Other influential Cuban American figures and politicians who embrace the Cuba Libre cause, such as Florida Representatives Carlos Jimenez and Mario Diaz-Balart, who celebrated El Funko and submitted the lyrics of Patria y Vida into the congressional record. Rubio, Jimenez, and Diaz-Balart did not respond to multiple requests for comments. So Florida representatives who are Cuban of descent are basically, who are Cuban and MAGA, are silent. They're throwing this guy under the bus. This is wild. If there is widespread awareness about Duane's case, it hasn't yet manifested in action. His plea for help has circulated on social media, but protests, petitions, or high-profile interventions have yet to materialize. If you want to help get the word out, share this video around. You can go share his social media posts that we talked about in the right here. We can link this so you can share his social media posts in any way you can. Drop a like on the video, comment, some blue hearts, whatever you want to do. The only elected official to offer to help so far is Representative Maria Alvera Salazar, Republican from Florida. Quote, El Funky is a political refugee who deserves the full protection of U.S. immigration law. Thank you. A little bit of common sense here, she said in a statement after calls from Politico magazine. The first time she's spoken publicly about the situation. So there you go. The media was able to pressure some people on to speak publicly. On Thursday, Salazar's office said they were making headway with the rapper's case. Here's the thing. I want to know what you guys think. Because every time I make one of these videos and I ask, you guys say, get him out of there. If there's a Trump supporter who is about to get deported, get him out of there, even if they're not a voter. And some people do take more empathetic stances. But in this case, I don't want to see the dude deported back to Cuba just because he's a Trump supporter. I don't think that would be fair, you know? Marquez's plight is striking on several fronts. First, it's an illustration of how much Rubio has changed while serving under the Trump admin. Had the Cuban rapper received such a notice even a year ago, it's hard to imagine Rubio not speaking up. Second, the rapper's pending deportation is an example of how quickly President Trump has shifted U.S.-Cuban immigration policy. For decades, the U.S. rolled out the red carpet for Cubans arriving in the United States thanks to a legacy of Cold War policies that positioned the U.S. as a haven for those fleeing Castro's communist regime, which is good. The U.S. should be a haven for solid, productive people who want to help contribute to the country, which almost everybody that comes over from Cuba is. It's very simple. It's insane. Well, if I could vote, I would have voted for Trump, he says. He's the strongest president when it comes to Cuba. Okay. And with that, I will leave you with this ad read.
How's it going, folks? I just want to share my thoughts about something that, an event within the Cuban diaspora and the Cuban community as a whole that is going to lead to some divisions that I think people have not foreseen. Eliezer Marquez Duani, also known as El Funky, is one of 3 creators of the anti-communist anthem Patria y Vida. He's a Miami-based Cuban rapper, and he is facing deportation after his residency has been denied in the country. This is big. This song was a Grammy-winning track, has been artificially promoted by the CIA through funding into the subsidiary projects to make this song as internationally acknowledged and well known as it is. And 2 of the artists that have created that song, the other 2, are in Cuba, imprisoned because of the counter-revolutionary potential that song has. There is, of course, economic instability within the country and people rising up against it. There are many criticisms to be made of the party, but a lot of it has to do with the foreign policy and the sanctions that have been placed on Cuba. And that is exactly why the CIA is investing into the resistance. On a mediatic and economic level, they have gone through funding radio stations that promote and import disinformation and anti-communist propaganda. They have invested even in creating, through the National Endowment of Democracy, a social media whose algorithm actually promotes anti-government posts and content to the Cuban people, to the young generation. That's who they're trying to get to be the vanguard of counter-revolution, of regime change, to put it more clearly, because that's our foreign policy right there. And so that's the precedent. The Mallory Memorandum that states the reasoning behind the sanctions through the Helms-Burton Act that has limited their ability to trade on an international level, or even have credit, which is essential to be able to trade. The reasoning behind it was because Castro was such a popular figure and leader that they needed to terrorize everybody that supported him. It's the same thing that they're saying about the Palestinian people having voted for Hamas, and now they're all animals, now they're all terrorists because they sided with the only force that was contesting the empire. It's that kind of conflation, and that's the kind of policy that the United States engages in, and that's why they've backed this song so much, and that's why it's such a threat to have somebody like El Funky make a track like this. Although it is very catchy, they know what they're doing. So this is interesting because the next most prominent Cuban, actually probably not, because that would be Pitbull, but I'm talking about Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He hasn't said a word about the potential deportation of this rapper. It's almost as if he's in support of it, which would be crazy. The diaspora thinks that they have supported Trump along this way, that they are a sacred demographic that wouldn't be threatened because they've got, Miami's the place to be, and that's where the most Republicans are, and a lot of Trump supporters. He has a golf course that's in Doral, which is a very Venezuelan majority community, but we have some reactionary Venezuelans that have even voted in favor of having ICE within that city through the 287G agreement, even though Venezuelans have been the main targets of ICE deportations to El Salvador, which just goes to show how backwards the exile diaspora of these left-wing governments and countries are. But back to the Cuban people. I mean, like I said, not a monolith, but they tend to see things as a means to an end. In the same way that a lot of them support the sanctions, a lot of them support Trump because he's going to strengthen the sanctions on Cuba. Even though we know that it's going to be making more Cuban people suffer, they are more than willing to take that approach to cause regime change, because they see even military intervention as beneficial to their particular interests. This doesn't mean that they're like capitalists within Cuba, although I'm sure some of them were, that want to get their, want to make more investments into the country. These are just people that have been fed just imperialist lies and have sided with the United States empire at the cost of the rest of the Cuban people. And considering that that's the way that they think, that they vote against their own interests, that some of them stand against their very own community as they resist empire, then we understand that there might be people that will applaud this deportation. They will see this counter-revolutionary figure coming into Cuba, whether they get arrested or not, as a means to stir counter-revolutionary unrest and uprisings within Cuba. They will support him going back and potentially getting incarcerated, because they know that that means that Cuban people will probably rise up, and that will cause even more instability within the island, which will be a moment of crisis for the media apparatus of the United States and potentially the military to exploit and to intervene and to do what they can to assassinate or arrest or do what they need to do to take out the leadership and take control of the country. This is a fucking wet dream for the diaspora, to have a counter-revolutionary figure like that incarcerated and revamp the agitation and desperation of the Cuban people on the island. So I think that there's going to be a big split. I think it's going to be a huge one between the people that are not supportive of Trump whatsoever, because they don't want to see this artist incarcerated, because it means that there's a precedent set that Cuban people are not sacred, that they will also be getting deported back to their countries. There have been numerous already. A mother in Tampa who recently had a newborn, she was sent right back, and she had to take the kid. I don't even know if she got to take the kid, actually. I'll fact check that. But there have been numerous Cubans that are not exempt from this xenophobia, from this deportation regime. And I think in this case in particular, there's going to be a large portion of the diaspora that is supportive of this policy. And I think that Rubio and Trump are part of that same problem. So we'll see what happens. I certainly think that ending the sanctions, stopping this deportation administration, abolishing ICE, are the only ways in which we can actually secure national sovereignty and benefit for the Cuban people as a whole. We saw how under Obama, although Obama is a war criminal, the sanctions were eased and the economy thrived. It boomed for the Cuban people. And that is something that can be done. And that is something that does not have to be the way that it is, but it is done this way because we don't want to see the Cuban economy thrive. We don't want to see the Cuban Communist Party at its fullest potential, investing in the people and investing in medical innovations as they have, even under the desperation that they're facing, and being able to distribute their innovations on a worldwide stage, on a worldwide scale. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, free Palestine, end the sanctions and embargo on Cuba, and I hope you have a wonderful
This is all I got from this video, and this is also a learning or a teachable moment for everybody, especially these people, right? Because now from the videos and all that circulating, it means he does not have any good reputation in his home country, right? And he came to United States and started supporting this man, Orange Man, supported. I think he's also part of the people that sang "I will vote," scream it, vote Donald Trump. They are also part. I think he's part of the people that sang that song, right? And now the same place he thought, like, that he was going to be chosen, and like, he thought he was going to be chosen. He was going to be, like, taken care of. I don't know what he was thinking. And now, he has been given how many days to leave the country, and they denied him residency and all of that. And I am asking, what is going to happen to him? What is going to happen to him? They will continue to vote Donald Trump. And now Donald Trump is about to boot. They will boot them out. So, hey, gosh. Now, there is something that I have found out, like I have learned about the Latinx community. That is, they really do not care about themselves. They don't. Because tell me how these people literally talk. Okay, like, he doesn't even have residency, right? And he was campaigning for this man. Not just campaigning for him. Like, was recruiting people too to, like, campaign for him. So what was his, did they pay him money or something that made him do that? Because at this point in time, he is stuck. He can't do anything. And it looks like he can't even go back to Cuba, because they will hold him for all the, hateful whatever that he has incited, like, or he has rapped against the country and all. Oh my goodness. It looks like they know how to damage their home and then stick with the outsiders. And then when the home start calling, they don't have anywhere to go. Why? Because they already messed the home up. Man, these people, I do not have anything to tell him. I do not have anything to say, but all I can say is that you got what you voted for. Because this is exactly what you voted for. And that is what you are also saying. If you did not vote for this, I am sure this wouldn't have been your story or your case. So this is where I am going to draw the curtain. Enjoy the period that you have here left. I don't know what it's going to happen, but I am going to keep my eyes on this particular story. So I'll bring to you people the next move. I'll see you all. Bye for now.